before supermarkets, before hospitals, before houses with locks and heating systems and running water. Before any of that existed, human beings survived. Not occasionally, not luckily, reliably. For 300,000 years in deserts and ice fields and rainforests and coastlines and mountain ranges, ancient humans woke up every single morning in a world that was actively trying to kill them and figured out how not to die. They did not survive by accident. They survived because they developed specific skills, real skills, skills so effective that the fundamental principles behind them are still taught in survival training today. Skills that your body still carries the instinct for, even if your hands have never practiced. This is every one of those skills explained. Skill 1 Fire. In June 2026, Science Daily published research confirming early humans were using fire in Wonderwerk cave in South Africa as far back as 1.79 million years ago. 1.79 million years. The human relationship with fire is not just ancient. It is older than our species as we currently define it. But fire was not a discovery made once and then remembered. It was a skill. The specific hand drill method, a straight dry spindle of softwood rotated rapidly between both palms while pressing downward against a flat fireboard of equally dry softwood, requires precise technique, specific materials, and sustained physical effort that can take 20 minutes of unbroken focus, even when you know exactly what you are doing. Research confirms that making fire from 2 sticks can take all day if your technique is wrong. What ancient humans understood about fire that modern survival training rediscovered: it is not just warmth. Fire extends the day. Fire keeps predators at the perimeter. Fire makes food safe. Fire hardens tools. Fire signals location. And perhaps most importantly, fire is the center around which a group gathers. Every function of fire is simultaneously a survival function and a social function. The ancient humans who mastered fire did not just survive longer individually. They created the conditions for group survival. And the group was always the real survival unit. Skill 2 Shelter. In May 2026, scientists confirmed that 800,000 years ago, early humans living beside a lake in what is now Israel regularly gathered driftwood washed up along the shoreline, giving them a reliable fuel source for cooking, tool making, and organizing daily life around hearths. What this discovery shows is not just that they had fire, it is that they had location strategy. They chose where to live based on resource availability. That is shelter thinking before shelter construction. The oldest deliberately constructed shelter evidence dates to Terra Amata in Nice, France, 400,000 years ago. Oval structures, central hearths, stone walls positioned specifically to block prevailing winds. The people who built these structures understood something that modern wilderness survival training calls the 5 W's: wood, water, wind, Widowmakers, and wildlife. Choose a location near enough to water but high enough to avoid flood. Protected from wind but not in a depression where cold air pools. Near enough to building materials to construct without exhausting yourself. Ancient humans did not build shelters randomly. They read the landscape. They understood microclimates. They knew which side of a hill stayed warmer and which stayed wetter. This was not intuition. It was accumulated generational knowledge. Observation passed from parent to child across thousands of years until the right location for a camp was something you could feel before you could fully articulate why. Skill 3 Water. Water is the most urgent survival need. You can survive weeks without food. You cannot survive 3 days without water. Ancient humans understood this with a precision that modern research has repeatedly confirmed. The specific knowledge: moving water is safer than still water. Water found downstream from animal carcasses is dangerous. Water that animals are actively drinking from is generally safe. Morning dew on large leaves can be collected by running fabric or animal skin along the surface, enough to sustain a person in the short term. Certain plants signal water below the surface. Willows, cottonwood, and cattails grow only where groundwater is accessible within a few meters of the surface. The tracking of water across landscapes, understanding how rainfall moves through terrain, where it pools, where it runs, where it goes underground, was one of the most critical cognitive skills ancient humans possessed. Evidence from multiple archaeological sites shows that hunter-gatherer groups followed specific seasonal water routes across hundreds of kilometers, visiting the same sources generation after generation. This was not wandering. This was a precise mental map of water in time and space, updated continuously and transmitted through generations. Skill 4 tool. The oldest stone tools found at Lomekwi 3 in Kenya date to 3.3 million years ago, predating our genus entirely. But tool-making was not just about the tools themselves. It was about understanding material properties. The specific knowledge required for the Acheulean Handaxe, the symmetrical biface tool that appears across Africa, Asia, and Europe from approximately 1.7 million years ago, includes identifying the right type of stone. Not all stone flakes. Flint and obsidian fracture predictably along conchoidal lines. Granite does not. Knowing which rock will give you a sharp edge and which will crumble requires the kind of material science knowledge that modern geology formalized, but ancient humans discovered through direct contact. And then there was bone. At Kostenki on the Don River in Russia, ancient humans burned mammoth bones for fuel because they understood that dense marrow-rich bone burns hotter and longer than most wood. They were applying material knowledge, understanding that different organic materials have different combustion properties, without the language to describe it, but with the practical skill to use it. Tool-making was also a social skill. Experimental archaeology has confirmed that producing an Acheulean Handaxe requires approximately 30 minutes to an hour of sustained napping. You cannot watch and walk simultaneously. Someone in the group was keeping watch while someone else made tools. The tools required division of labor. Division of labor required trust. Trust required a social bond. The Handaxe and the community that made it were the same thing. Skill 5 tracking. Tracking is the art of reading what has passed through an environment from the evidence it left behind. The specific skills: identifying animal tracks by shape, depth, and gait pattern. Understanding how the compression of soil or the disturbance of leaf litter decays over time in specific weather conditions to determine when an animal passed. Reading broken vegetation, which direction a branch was pushed, whether it was pushed by something large or small, whether the break is fresh or old. The Sand people of southern Africa, one of the most studied hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, demonstrate tracking abilities that have been described by researchers as equivalent to reading a detailed text. They can identify individual animals by the specific irregularities of their gait, track prey over rocky ground where no footprint is visible by reading subtle environmental disturbances, and predict where an animal will be hours later based on its direction, speed, and the time of day. This knowledge was not instinct. It was accumulated observation across thousands of hours of direct environmental contact, transmitted from experienced tracker to apprentice through years of practical instruction. The brain that learned to track was the same brain that eventually developed the capacity for reading written language, a complex symbol system requiring the identification of patterns and the extraction of meaning from those patterns. Tracking may have been one of the cognitive foundations of human literacy. Skill 6 blank. We covered this in full in a previous Stonvex video, but one fact belongs here in its survival context. Ancient humans at El Sidrón cave in Spain, 50,000 years ago, had yarrow, groundsel, and ephedra in their dental calculus. Not as food, these plants are bitter and nutritionally negligible. As medicine, in a survival context, knowing which plant reduces inflammation, which plant opens the airways, and which plant prevents infection is not a luxury. It is the difference between a wound that heals and a wound that kills. The survival value of plant knowledge was so high that it created a specific social role, the healer, which may be the oldest professional specialization in human history. The group that had someone who knew the plants had a survival advantage that no amount of individual physical strength could match. Skill 7 group. This is the one that every survival manual mentions last, and every anthropologist puts first. New research published in June 2026 in Science Daily confirmed that long before humans became master hunters, our ancestors were already thriving by making the most of what nature left behind, and that scavenging animal carcasses worked specifically because of human teamwork. Carrion provided calorie-rich food with far less effort than hunting, the research noted, and humans were uniquely suited to take advantage of it, from strong stomach acid and long-distance walking to fire, tools, and teamwork. Teamwork is the word. A single ancient human in a hostile environment is extraordinarily vulnerable. A group of 20 ancient humans in the same environment is formidable. The group is the survival technology that makes all other skills possible. You can only afford to specialize in tracking if someone else is maintaining the fire. You can only afford to rest if someone else is watching the perimeter. You can only recover from an injury if the group feeds you while you heal. The specific social technologies that maintain group cohesion, the conflict resolution mechanisms, the resource sharing norms, the collective decision-making processes, were as much survival skills as fire-making. A group that fell apart under resource pressure was a dead group. A group that maintained trust and cooperation through scarcity was a group that survived to the next season. Skill 8 Coal. At Kostenki on the Don River in Russia, 25,000 years ago, a group of ancient humans built a circular shelter from the skulls and bones of at least 60 individual woolly mammoths and survived winters of -40 degrees Celsius. At Sunghir, 200 kilometers east of what is now Moscow, children were buried in tailored fitted clothing decorated with 10,000 individual ivory beads, each bead taking approximately 1 hour to make. The quality of their clothing was not an aesthetic choice. It was survival engineering. The specific knowledge. Layering works because dead air between layers insulates better than any single material. Animal fat applied to exposed skin slows moisture evaporation and reduces wind chill effect. Wet clothing kills faster than cold alone. The first priority in extreme cold is staying dry, not staying warm. Moving generates heat, but sweating in extreme cold is dangerous because sweat cools the body faster than the exercise warmth. These were not theories. These were lessons learned through the deaths of people who got it wrong, transmitted to the survivors, refined and passed forward to the next generation who would face the same cold. Skill 9 Night. The last skill is the one that never appears in modern survival manuals, because modern humans have eliminated the problem it addresses. Absolute darkness. For 300,000 years, every night, the world divided into two entirely different environments. The day belonged to humans they could see, coordinate, communicate. The night belonged to predators whose eyes were built for it in ways that human eyes simply were not. Cave lions, leopards, cave hyenas, all of them hunting in conditions where a human being was functionally blind. The response was fire, always, every night, maintained specifically to push back the dark. But fire was not the only tool. Night camps were positioned with specific awareness of approach routes and escape paths. Sleeping arrangements put the most vulnerable children, the injured, the elderly, in the center. Watches were kept. Sounds were monitored with the specific alertness that modern humans almost never access because they almost never need to. The specific human instinct that remains from this period. You are still more alert at night than during the day. You still notice sounds at night that you filter out during daylight. You still feel uneasy in complete darkness even when you know intellectually that there is nothing there. That unease is not irrational. For 300,000 years, it was completely correct. 9 skills. Fire that ancient humans mastered 1.79 million years ago. Shelter positioned with the precision of material science. Water tracked across landscapes through accumulated generational knowledge. Tools made with an understanding of material properties that predates modern geology. Tracking that may have been the cognitive foundation of literacy. Plants that created the oldest professional specialization in history. The group that was always the real survival unit. Cold survived through engineering that required 10,000 hours of work just to clothe 2 children. And the dark, managed every night for 300,000 years, by the light of a fire that someone kept burning until morning. You carry all of this, not the skills themselves perhaps, but the instincts that made the skills possible, the alertness in darkness, the ease around fire, the instinctive reading of a stranger's face for threat or trust, the specific comfort of being in a group when danger is present. Your ancestors survived everything the ancient world had, and everything they learned, they passed to the next person who needed until it got to you.